For the Lord your God has blessed you. The Lord your God has blessed you in all the work of your hand. He knows you're trudging through this great wilderness. These 40 years, the Lord your God has been with you. You have lacked nothing. This is a familiar passage, but I wonder have we thought about the depth of what's being said here, because he said, these 40 years, the Lord has been with you, and you've lacked nothing. You can take your seats. This is going to check some of us and bless the rest of us. We're being watched, and we've been seen. Let me say it one more time. I said, we're being watched, and we've been seen. I have questions, so many questions. What happens when we believed the report of the Lord, but we've been enduring the loop? You got to understand that some of these people, the remnant we'll call them, that were left over from those who were complaining, those who have been becoming carcasses in the wilderness, that there's a remnant that remains, that is enduring this 40 years. Remember the chief complainers, if we would, those 10. The chief complainers died nearly instantly, or immediately, I should say. And then the other ones began to drop off over time. We know Moses isn't going to make it in. But we know this too, that Joshua and his household, Caleb and his household are going to make it in. Also, anyone who is 19 years and younger out of the tribes. So what happens, particularly in the households of Joshua and Caleb? What happens when you believed the report of the Lord, but you're still enduring the loop? I'm not the reason why we're here. And I heard what God said. God said 40 years. Ain't no fast forwarding, ain't no fasting, ain't no praising, ain't no prayer. We gonna be here. What do I do during this loop? That's the question that's posed to me, because we've been going without getting anywhere. We're not immobile. They weren't stationary. They were moving. We've been going but not getting anywhere. How can we recognize the blessings of God bearing the duration of this wandering? I hope I'm talking to somebody. How can we recognize the blessings of God? Not you going to shout and get out of it tomorrow. Not you're going to pray and it's going to be done. It's going to be a check in the mailbox by the time you get to your house. No. What happens when you've been having to go through it? Though you didn't do it. I got to go through it, but I didn't do it. Are you hearing what I'm saying? For your consideration, God moves by his infallible instructions. God moves by his infallible instructions. In the first 6 verses before we get to where we are, Israel had been in Kadesh. Verse 46 of chapter 1 says, many days. They had been in Kadesh many days. They turned and journeyed into the wilderness of the way of the Red Sea. Yahweh told Moses something that he said earlier in a different place. He said, you skirted this mountain, which means you've been around this mountain. I know you just left Horeb, and I told you it was around that mountain too long. But now you've been around this hairy place. That's what seer means. This hairy place. You've been around this hairy place long enough, turn northward. He says, command the people you're about to pass through. I hope somebody hear me. I know you think that Moses is talking to Israel. Well, I'm here to tell you that the text is talking to you and I. Command the people you're about to pass through your brethren's territory. So before you get to your promise, you're going to have to pass through your brethren's property. I say before you, okay, are you following me? Before you get to your promise, you're going to have to pass through your brethren's property. Now, if you know anything about Esau, like we brethren, but we don't exactly get along all the time. We blood. We not buddies. Do you understand what I'm saying? He said, you're about to pass through your brother's territory, and he says, they'll be afraid of you. They're going to see how numerous you are. And you got to understand at this point in time, even though there aren't a large amount of them per se, comparatively, they're still known as warriors. They're known as warriors. He says, they'll be afraid of you. Watch yourselves carefully. You be careful while you're passing through your brethren's territory. Don't meddle with them. You're going to have to be around them. Don't meddle with them. Watch this. You're going to have to do business with them, but don't meddle with them. I've already given you your possession. Don't mess with theirs. I hope the body is hearing me what I'm saying. Because what God has for us is for us, and simply because God will tell us things like, I'm going to give you things that you didn't necessarily work for. I'm going to give you things that you didn't necessarily have to build. We think that that applies to everything. We think it applies to every place, and it does not. Say there's a promised place for us. And so a lot of times we'll be stepping through property that isn't promised to us, but acting like that property is our promise. And then we don't understand why we're having so much conflict when God is giving us clear instructions. That's not the place for you. But my brother, it's not yours. I told you, when I said go in and possess the land, understand, I was very specific about where I told you to go. When I said go, see, we can't go in and possess every land we see. I hope the church is hearing what I'm saying. I said you can't go in and possess every, I'm walking in the Spirit of God wherever I set my feet, if he said. And a lot of times, we're getting annihilated because we're taking places and we're taking authority in places we have none. We're trying to exercise authority in places we have none. You only have the authority per your assignment. Our authority is attached to our assignment. And anytime we operate outside of our assignment, we lose authority. Are you hearing what I'm saying? I'm trying to tell us how to possess this because I said I'm tired of talking about possessing it. I want to possess it. But I don't want to possess it and not understand how to possess it. I don't want to possess it and not know that sometimes in getting to the place that God has promised, that every place ain't mine. That just because I said God said doesn't mean he said. Just because God is with me doesn't mean I should necessarily go there. Help me. Don't meddle with them. Their territory belongs. Are you hearing me, church? Watch this. The whole church need to know how to stay in their lane. The leadership love to tell the lay persons, stay in your lane. Lay persons love to tell leadership, stay in your lane. I'm telling the whole church, stay in our lane. Everything, boy, everything don't belong to us. The earth is the Lord's. Make sure you understand that text. The earth is the Lord's. The promised place is ours, not the property of our brethren. Oh, God. Not the property of places where he says, just pass through. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Their territory belongs to them. He says, and I'm paraphrasing here, purchase provisions and keep it moving. Get what you need to get. Deal with them the way you want to be dealt with. Be fair. Be judicious. But keep it moving. Don't hang around. Don't try and take stuff that ain't yours. Don't try and operate in a place where I didn't assign you. Make no mistake, following God's instructions is always in our best interest. Now, we ought to know that. But we like to place his interest. We like to place our, look, we don't even understand. When God gives us instructions, they're not going to always be comfortable. They're not going to always meet our preferences. And sometimes we think that we should do our preference instead of his instruction. That's what's going wrong with a lot, even that call themselves believers, because we want to operate his church according to our preference, and it is not so. We can't operate his church according to our traditions and then put his name on it and say, why isn't this working? Because that's your vain traditions, right? And understand it, watch this, we can have our traditions as long as they don't usurp truth. Because every tradition isn't toxic, right? But some are. Are you hearing what I'm saying? But there are some things that we do traditionally that we have now made standard. Huh? I'm not going to go down that line because I can preach another 15 minutes about all the stuff that organizations, assemblies call the standard, and none of them are biblical. But following God's instructions, not our indoctrinations. Following God's instructions is always in our best interest. Let's keep going. God moves in his inclinations of intervention. God moves in his inclinations of interventions. Why do you put it like that? Because whenever he's inclined to do it, that's when he does it. Because when he sets a timing, he means the timing. If he says 40 years, remember in chapter 1, this address is given in the 40th year and the 11th month. He meant all 40. Say he meant what he said. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Verse 7 says that the Lord has blessed you. He's talking to Israel. The Lord has blessed you in all the work of your hands. I'm still having questions. Help me. The Lord has blessed you in all the works of your hand. I want to inform some and remind others, being blessed is more than what we have. It's what's happening to us. Because that word in the text is barak. And the usage of that word, or the part of speech that word is a verb. And quiet as it's kept, blessed is more a verb than it is a noun. So being blessed is what's happening, not what we have. But it's been taught the other way. Go ahead, fight with me, but go ahead and actually do some study before you fight. Watch some film before you fight, or you get busted in the head. You understand what I'm saying? So it's what's happening to me. Here's the thing. Because we've been taught that, right? We understand that. The question is, what's been happening? The truth is, because we got to tell the whole truth, right? The truth is, they haven't really gone further. You're telling me that I'm blessed, but I'm not in promise. Let me come back. Oh, God. You're telling me I'm blessed, but I'm not in promise. You're telling me I'm blessed, but I've been in this loop for 40 years. You're telling me I'm blessed, and I'm from the household of Caleb, the brave one. Quiet as it's kept, Caleb is the first one who opens his mouth. Joshua succeeds Moses, but Caleb is the first one to speak. Caleb is the first one that's trying to encourage folk. And so Caleb understands his role, but here it is, him and his household have been in the same loop as those who came from households of unbelievers. The church ain't hear what I'm saying. We done been in the church all our lives. Why we got to go through what the unbelievers are going through? We've been taught too much individualism in the house of God when it's a collective thing. We're only getting as far as we get together. That's layered. We're only getting as far as we get together. And some of us wondering why we aren't getting anywhere. Well, that's because we haven't gotten together. Go in, possess the land. Wait. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Before you go hop, skipping, and jumping, actually have a plan. Actually know what the instructions are. Because we want to get someplace and don't even know what it entails. We want to get someplace and haven't even learned the lessons of the last level we just left. Are you hearing what I'm saying? So they haven't really gone further. Yet and still, they've been making gains. However, I love tension. Watch this. I love conflict. I do. How is it that we haven't gone anywhere, but we're still making gains? He just told me he was blessed. I ain't put nothing in the text. He said you're blessed in all the work. Is that not what the text says? But how can you say that I'm blessed when I'm in this loop? How can you say that we're making gains and we haven't gotten anywhere? The text says the Lord has blessed you in all the work of your hands. This tells me, y'all ready? This tells me they were wandering, but they were also working. They were wandering, but they weren't wondering what to do. They were wandering, but they were working. So just because you can't get into the place of promise doesn't mean that you can't be productive in the meantime. Oh, God, help my soul. I said, just because you haven't made your way to promise doesn't mean that you can't be productive in the... I'm a meantime preacher in case you haven't caught it yet. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Not just walking. Because when we talk about wandering, because in actuality, the Bible does not give us a whole lot what happened in that 40-year period. It really doesn't. Go ahead, tear it upside down, go up and down. But we know that they were wandering, and now we have this indication that they've been working because he's blessing the work of their hands. So that means that their hands were not idle. That means that they were doing more than just walking. They were doing more than just waiting. And a lot of us are saying, well, God said I ain't going to get out of this situation till so-and-so time, so I'm going to just wait on God. You better get up and work. They weren't just waiting. Watch this one. They weren't just wishing. I wish this was over. I can't wait till it's over. And they weren't whining. And a lot of us, instead of working, while we're wondering, we just whine. God, I should be in promise by now because I'm talking for Caleb and Joshua and them. Now, look, them other 10, we're going to call them the 10s, right? All right? Now, them 10s, I understand if they had to go through. Don't we do this? Don't we do this? I understand why they're going through. I pray for them. I ain't got nothing against them, but I understand why they're going through. They ain't even believe you, God. But not only do I believe you, but my daddy believed you. Y'all don't understand. See, I've been in church all my life. Not saved. I'm a third generation preacher. So I know what God has done for generations before me. You know, kind of like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Kind of like that. But here I am in the story. And this is how I looked and studied. I'm like, I'm in Caleb's household. I'm in Joshua's household. Not only did my daddy believe you, not only did my daddy's daddy believe you, but I believe you. But here I am, right next to these just now believers. Come on, somebody help me. Somebody help me. Y'all ain't never been there? Y'all might have had another terminology for it. Don't tell me. Don't tell on yourself. Them just now believers. Oh, you just got in this. You got it. You don't even know what we've been through. Watch this. Watch this. You 39. You don't even know what Egypt looks like. See, I be looking at the whole text. You 39 years old. You don't even know what Egypt looked like. You ain't never been. We talk about getting to the other side of Jordan. You ain't never even seen the other side of the Red Sea. But you saying that we making gains and we haven't gone anywhere. Don't miss this. God moves through his intrinsic intentionality. According to Deuteronomy chapter 8, 2 through 4, I'm not going to read it, but it further details God's purpose. So watch this. I know that you thought that this 40 years, let me bring it to today. I know you think that this wandering has no purpose. I know that you think that this cycle has no purpose. The cycle, I'm not going to get ahead of myself. I know you think that this loop has no purpose, but there's been a purpose the whole time. Somebody said there's been a purpose the whole time. The text tells us that he did it to humble them, to test them as a remnant, to humble and test them. It says in those same verses that God allowed hunger. Huh? You just said that we were blessed in all the work of our hands, but I still allowed you to be hungry some days. God, help my soul. He says, I've allowed you to hunger, to feed your manna. And I did this to prove a principle to you, that to show you that there's life in every word that proceeds out the mouth of God. See, we get it from the New Testament. Oh, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out the mouth of God. Israel got that same message in Deuteronomy chapter 8. Say the same word. So they got that same word, and some of them still didn't get it. We're getting the same of us, and some of us still won't get it. He said, man does not live by bread alone. This is why I allowed you to be hungry some days, so that you can see that I'm going to feed you. He allowed them to be hungry, right? And this is the part that we all know about, because this is the part that we kind of skip over, all the other stuff that's in there, that their garments didn't wear out. And y'all like, hold on, I done threw away some clothes, but you got on clothes right now, right? So your garments haven't worn out. Hold on, see, because we be looking at this and missing it. Are you naked? Then your garments haven't worn out. Let me ask you a better question. Are you covered? Then your garments haven't worn out. Watch this. Now, not only did their garments not wear out, their feet didn't swell. I've been walking for 40 years, and my feet haven't. I'm just talking about the text, y'all good. And so his intent is to grow not to only grow them, but to grow us in humility. Say, he's been trying to grow me in humility. Ooh, boy. He's been trying to grow me in humility, competency. What do you mean competency? He said in Deuteronomy chapter 8 that I'm going to test you. I did it to test you, to see whether you will follow my word or not, because you said you would, and then the minute that I put something in front of your face, because see, you're reading chapter and verse. God help me. You're looking at 10 commandments and say, Lord, we following 10 commandments, but I'm telling you to go to the mountains of the Amorites. No, let's send some recon up there. But we remembered the Sabbath day to keep it holy, but I told you to take the mountain. I don't know about taking no mountain, God. Okay, let's go to the chief one, right? Let's go to the chief one. I said to love no God above myself. And I told you to do something. But you gave me an excuse. So how can we say we've done the commandments of God when we aren't doing the commandments of God? Watch this. I ain't talking about 1 through 10. I'm talking about the one where he said go. Oh, that's right. We're not under the law. What if I came at it this way? Thank you, Holy Ghost. What if I came out this way? We're not above the law. And if you think that you're above instructions because that's what it actually is, if you think that you're above instructions, you'll fall due to ignorance. That an insolence one. Are you hearing what I'm saying? But his intent is to grow us in humility, in competency. Say, he wants me to pass the test. He wants us to pass the test so much that he's already given us the answers. Now, if you have an open book test and you fail, I'm not going to call you dumb. Hey, I know we're in the don't judge me dispensation. So I'm going to tread lightly. I'm not going to call you dumb. But I got questions. How did you fail an open book test? You ain't know how to look at the chapter, and you ain't read the headings or nothing to give you something, contents to just get you in the proximity of the answer? No. I ain't calling nobody, don't nobody out there get offended now. Because we don't get offended, we get offended. Don't get offended now. Don't get offended. I ain't calling nobody dumb. I just got questions. So he wanted to grow us in humility, competency, and dependency. So God's been trying to grow us in dependency and realize, look, I let you be hungry so that you can realize that if you depend on me, I'll feed you. I let you endure this entire time and you never lost covering. I don't think you heard what I was saying because you're thinking about garments. I said you never lost covering. I never stopped covering you. even in the cycle. Thank you, Holy Ghost. I never stop covering you, even in the cycle. One more time. I never stop covering you, even in the cycle. Never stop covering you. But I did the growing you in dependency so you realize that no matter how far you get, you should always rely on me. This is what the Lord is saying. No matter how into promise, don't think that you've gotten anywhere by your own goodness. Don't think that you've gotten anywhere by your own work, because he says, I have blessed the work of your hands. I'm the one that didn't allow your work to go to waste while you were wandering. Quick side note, perhaps our progress has been impeded by our pride. And pride is the literal opposite of humility. And so a lot of times, because it's interesting, once God starts doing the thing for us, how much some of us become entitled. We have this undue expectancy. I'm talking about Israel. I'm not talking about y'all. You know what it is. He brought you across the Red Sea, but now you're thirsty. He made the water come out the rock, but now you're hungry. He rained manna from the sky, but now what is this manna? We want sandwiches. Y'all know that's my thing, right? All they wanted was a chicken sandwich. So he gave them quail, right? This one a quail sandwich with some barbecue sauce or something. That's why y'all tripping? You tripping over a quail sandwich? You want mayonnaise? Okay. Y'all petty, boy. I ain't talking about y'all. Talk about Israel. But they were receiving all these things. Watch this. How many have been struggling? Has anybody been struggling with something? And so while you've been struggling, you look at struggle through the lens of lack. But the text says you've lacked nothing. You just told me that you allowed me to be hungry, but you lacked. You telling me that I haven't gotten anywhere, but I've lacked. And so it seems to me that when I look at things through my lens, it always looks like lack. When I look at what I don't have, I can't see what's been happening to me. I'm looking at what I don't have, and I can't see God's hand on my life. I can't see that he's been blessing the works of my hand. I can't see that even though I was struggling, I didn't starve. I can't see that even though I didn't have the clothes I wanted to have, I got clothes. I can't see even though I wasn't the place that I wanted to be, I still was somewhere. I'm not gone. I'm still here, which means God isn't through with me yet. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Perceived lack of progress can be so misleading. We can miss God, right? We can miss God's preservation. Do you not realize that though you can identify what you perceive as lack, that God's been preserving you while you're looking at your lack? While you're looking at your lack, can you not see that God's been provisional? He's been providing things that you couldn't get your hands on because, remember, you're lack. And watch this. He's been protecting you as well. You've been under attack, but you're still here. You've been through some warfare. Somebody ought to praise God. You've been through some warfare, but you're still here. You've been through some tough times, but you're still here. Pastor, are you telling me I should be grateful for what I have? I ain't going to tell you what to think. And sometimes we miss God's plan. So all these things he's been preserving us, he's been providing for us, he's been protecting us, and we're missing his plan because we can only peer through our little lens of lack. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Here's the thing the text says, and I like the way New King James puts this because the other ones say journey. The other ones say walking. Some of them say like, journey and all these other things, horse and all this stuff. But I like the way New King James put this. It says trudging. Trudging. He knows our trudging through this great wilderness. I remind you, we're being watched and we've been seen. Can I say this? Perhaps we haven't landed yet, but we're not lacking now. I said we haven't landed yet, but we're not lacking now. I dare somebody in the house to receive that I have no lack. Somebody say, I lack nothing. Now, for those of you that ran to your bills, you ain't get the word that I just tell you. Those of you that ran to your health report, you didn't hear what I just said. I lack nothing. Because watch this. If healing is on his docket, you already have it. I said if finances is on his docket, you already have it. Since promise is on his docket, you already have it. He's been preserving me for his promises. He's been protecting me for his promises. He's been providing for me for his promises. He had a purpose this whole time. This whole time. God is blessing the work of our hands. I don't know if you're hearing me what I'm telling you. I said, see, if I told you something that didn't come out of Scripture, some of us would be running around going crazy. I'm trying to give you the unadulterated word of God. I didn't say he's fin to. I didn't say he's going to. I didn't say any day now. I said God is blessing the work of our hands. Watch this. It's an absolute statement with a contingency clause. It's an absolute statement with a contingency clause. What do you mean? Because God is blessing the work, not the whining. Not just the walking, not just the waiting, the work. So I got to put my hands to work. All hands on plow. He's blessing somebody. Just put your hands out like this here. Say, he's blessing the work of my hands. He's blessing the work of my hands. Talk to the other one. He's blessing the work of my hands. Now put your hands to work. We want to talk about we're waiting on God, but we won't put our hands to work. We're talking about God has a promise for us, but we're not putting our hands to work because we're still in this cycle. God, I've been in this cycle. This cycle ain't my fault, it's their fault. Yep, it's their fault. Now what? Work. Work anyway. No, it ain't your fault that you're in some of the situations that you're in. Work anyway. How can you say that Caleb and Joshua's household had to work anyway, and they were believers before the cycle, during the cycle, after the cycle? You know what else this brings to mind? Because faith without, and some of us have been in cycles experiencing dead seasons because we won't work. See, we think the cycle is the reason why we're in the dead season. No, you're in the dead season because you won't put your hands to work. Nothing's happening for some of us because we won't put our hands to work. Watch this. Sometimes you're going to have to work in places that you don't want to because of the place that you're in. You're not in promise yet. So watch this. You can't work promise when you ain't in it. Say, while I'm in the wilderness, I got to work in it. That'll make me run. I said, while I'm in the wilderness, I got to work in the wilderness. How you think you're going to get a work ethic and promise if you refuse to work in the wilderness? Oh, you think when you get the promise you ain't going to have to work? Watch this. We've been talking about this because I said there's more warfare in the wilderness than in promise. But guess what? There's more work in promise than there is. You're going to have to work when you get in promise. Are you understanding what I'm saying? Don't get lazy now. Can I say it like this? Can I alliterate a little bit? Don't get lazy in the loop. Don't let laziness become your loop. Because even if you get moved to promise, but you've been stuck in a lazy loop, you'll be lazy in promise. You'll be in the place that God has promised you, but you haven't broken the cycle that you needed to break. See, because we're thinking about the time as a loop. No, I keep telling you it's the mindset. It's the mindset. I gotta break that bondage mindset from off of you. Because what they kept talking about, we need to go back to Egypt. I got you out of Egypt. I'm trying to get you out of this wilderness. But you got to get out of the wilderness of your mind. And guess what God has seen? God has seen you trudging in the great wilderness of your mind. Because some of us, can I talk to some of us? Some of us really been stuck in our own head. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Watch this. Peace for some of us ain't a place, it's a mindset. Because watch this, you can be in a promised place, but if your mind ain't at peace, then what good is it? I hope this helping somebody. Lord have mercy. He knows our trudging through this great wilderness. Say he knows. He knows that I've been believing, but I've been in a cycle. Maybe trudging. I may be trudging, but I'm yet trusting. Can I get anybody to come with me? Maybe I've been trudging. Maybe what came to my mind when I was thinking about this, while I'm on this, tedious. While I'm on, somebody say it's tedious sometimes. I just need somebody. I know we want to run. I know we want to celebrate. Can somebody get real with me and say, sometimes this thing tedious? I know I'm on a verge of promise. I need somebody to get with me. I know I'm on a verge of promise. But right now, this thing is tedious. I know you about to break me out. I know you about to bring me out, but this thing is tedious. I want to let somebody know God has seen your tedious journey. God has seen the trudging through this great wilderness. God has seen you stuck in your own mind. God has seen you stuck in your own circumstances. God has seen us stuck in what previous generations did. God has seen us stuck in unbelief, and he said, I'm here to break you out. But first, humble yourself. Because if you don't Learn humility now. You'll become haughty in promise. If you won't execute in the wilderness, you'll become entitled in promise. The sickness that'll hit you is entitlement. The sickness that'll hit you is pride. I'm walking in my promises. How you think you got there? It was the work of my hands. He's blessing. He blessed my hands. I better not ever hear nary believer talking about something they self-made. I might rebuke you on the spot. He is blessing the work of my hands. But can I trust him while I'm trudging? Can I trust him while I have to go through this time? When I know that it ain't coming tomorrow. Because even though we're on the verge to really understand where I'm trying to get us to where the word is trying to get us, we've had to have this mentality for a long time. And a lot of times we want to have our mind changed today and our situations change tomorrow. And God said, I needed your mind made up 40 years ago. God, help my soul. Are you hearing what I'm saying? The Lord never left. We've been watched and we're being seen. He says, I've seen you. You thought he didn't see you while you was trudging? This is your verse. I've seen you while you've been going through. And I've been blessing you, though some of us haven't realized it. The Lord never left. The lunch may have been delayed, but it's not denied. Say the lunch was delayed. The flight was delayed. The flight was delayed because they were supposed to take this flight, and so the flight was delayed. But I wonder how many of you would work in the airport while you were waiting on your flight. See, some of y'all looking at me right now like, I would never, because you're missing the principle. You're missing the principle. You're missing the principle. I would never. My flight should have been on time. The pilot should have been ready. The flight attendant should have been ready. Well, the pilot was ready. God was ready. The flight attendants were ready. Joshua and Caleb were ready. But see, the passengers. And sometimes passengers get to acting prideful. After I done made it through security, I had to come out of my fresh Jordans and step my clean socks on this nasty floor with these people walking around with bare feet. And now you telling me to go to work in the airport? What else you gonna do? You gonna whine? You gonna complain? You got places to go, people to see, things to do? You do, but you ain't going there right now. Go to work. You got one of these? Go to work. You brought your laptop with you? Go to work. You've been talking about writing that book. You got a 6-hour layover. Chapter number 3 could have been right there. But no, you spent 5.5 hours complaining. Trying to see if you was going to catch another flight out. And it says, no, that's the only one. And I'm here to tell somebody, when God says this is the only way it's going to happen, this is the only way it's going to happen. You ain't catching the earlier flight. You can whine and complain all you want to. And guess what? You ain't waiting for the plane because the plane is sitting. You can see it. Watch this. This plane is there. It's right now. The plane is parked because we've been prideful. The plane has been parked because of prideful passengers. God help me. The flight's been delayed because of prideful passengers, because they just didn't understand. We just didn't understand. Watch this. I know you want a private plane, but that ain't how this works. Ain't no private plane. You understand what I'm saying? You ride with everybody else. So it don't matter how much money you got. Don't watch this. Doesn't even matter how faithful you've been. Ooh. 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 Don't even matter how faithful you've been, because God said this is a congregational thing. And some of us have been like, but God, I've been serving you. Do I hear pride? God, I should, because is that pride I'm hearing? But God, look at what I've done. Is that pride I'm hearing? Church. Some of us are wondering why we're stuck, because we thought that we've done everything that we're supposed to do. Watch this, and some of us have. But it's caused too many of us to become prideful in the perceptions of our accomplishments, because we forgot that God was blessing the work. Never mind. God was blessing you to be faithful. Oh, you thought that was your faithfulness. Lord have mercy. Let me move on. The Lord never left. Are you hear what I'm saying? So the Lord never left. The lunch might have been delayed, but it's not denied. Somebody say it's not denied. It's not denied to the believers. It's not denied to the cycle breakers. Somebody say, I'm a cycle breaker. If you're a cycle breaker, that means that you have to understand how to operate in humility. Watch this. You will not break this cycle without humility. I'm here to tell somebody, you will not break this cycle without humility. I'm going to tell somebody else, you will not break this cycle without humility. You won't break this cycle until you pass his test. So you love to talk about something, you're a cycle breaker, can you pass his test? We want to cry out, we're cycle breakers, but can you operate in humility at all times? Watch this. We want to be cycle breakers, but we don't want to be competent. How you gonna be a cycle breaker and not be competent? Because watch this, if you can't pass tests in the wilderness, now help me out. Anybody that's been through any kind of school anywhere, if you didn't pass the prerequisite, you couldn't take the course. Hold on, let me say it again. If you don't pass, help me out, Nick. I mean, you right in the thick of it, right? They said you got to take, you might have been way past pre-algebra. I don't know. I'm not trying to insult you. Just help me real quick. I'm trying to teach, make it work. You know what I'm saying? You had to take, or at least test for pre-algebra before you got to algebra, right? Before you take calculus, you got to take some class. You can't just jump in there like that, right? All right? And before you get to trigonometry, you just can't just jump. You can't be like, I'm taking, you can't do that, right? So help me out now. Help me out. I've been out of school a long time. If you don't know how to add, trigonometry going to be pretty difficult. I'm just asking questions. I mean, help me out. You don't know division, multiplication, exponent, something, right? You're going to be triggered around trigonometry. You know what we'll say? You know what we'll say? This isn't fair. God, why are you putting me through this course? No. You said you was ready for the next level. You don't want to say it, right? No. How about this? Pass this course. Pass this one first. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Say, I need humility. So I need competency. You really need proficiency, but we got to start at, we got to start somewhere. We need proficiency. We got to start at competency, right? And I need dependency. And that's a place where we struggle. We struggle with that dependency. I've said it time and time again. God will never leave you out of that seat. And we keep wanting to leave it. Talking about some leaning on the everlasting arms, but you want to be independent. You watch this. You want to do your expertise without his permission. God, I know how to do that, but I don't even want you doing that. Watch this in this season. Watch this ever again. God, you don't know how many times I've done that? Yeah, now stop. Come do this. I put out a post a week ago. I said, sometimes you have to graduate to elementary. I'm cutting it short, but sometimes you got to graduate to elementary. Hold on. Wait a minute. You left that class. You did good. Congratulations. Come down here to elementary. I don't have to go back to elementary. Is that pride I hear again? I know the deep things of God. Apparently not deep enough, prideful one. Somebody say I'm a cycle breaker. I want us to be encouraged today because our course is known. Our course is known. We may have felt stuck, even been stuck. Nevertheless, we can't stop serving God. Anybody ever felt stuck? You might have been stuck, but don't let that stop you from serving God. Because folks can identify that they're in a cycle, but they can't identify that they're losing connection to the one that's covering them in the cycle. Oh, God, I'm in a cycle. Generational curses and generational proclivities and generational health issues. You can identify all that. You can itemize it. You can break it down to the kneecaps. But then you just want God, come now, Lord. And I'm sorry, the way God be talking to me and tell you, like, hold on, whoa. Like, seriously, like, when you gonna go to work? We want God to work it out. He wants us to work it out. Jesus will work it out when you do. Jesus will work it out when you do. Jesus will work it out when you do. Work it out. Get shot on that one. Not on him, not just on him working it out, but us having to work it out. Say he's blessing the work. The work of our hands. We cannot, listen real quick, I'm almost out your way for real. We cannot stop doing what he's blessed us to do while we're waiting on what he's promised us he'll do. And a lot of us are saying that we're waiting on the promises of God to begin doing the things of God. A lot of us are talking about promise, getting into promise, walking into promise, and the promises of mine, his yeah. Did we think that was supposed to be your layoff season? Huh? You thought that was supposed to be your lazy season? Huh? No. And even though we don't have a lot of detail about the day-to-day operations of the 40-year period, this one thing that we know for sure, they were working. They were working, and God was blessing the work of their hands. And so watch this. If you're looking for a blessing, try going to work. Because our course is known. I'll say it one more time. We're being watched. We've been seen. How is that going to apply? because we're being watched. So what we're not doing, he's been watching that. Say that part two. And we've been seen. So if we haven't been working, yeah. He's seen that part too. And so a lot of times we're looking for blessings and God's looking for the work. We're looking for the promise and God's looking for the work. We want to be cycle breakers and God is looking for the work. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Say, I'm a cycle breaker and I'm a worker too. So I gotta work in this faith. I gotta work through seasons where I'm not going to get out of what I'm in. Ain't no praying out of it, ain't no fasting out of it, none of that. I'm just gonna have to be in it. You understand what I'm saying? This is an ever relevant word. Why can I say that so boldly? Because no matter what the situation is, I need to be found working. It's a principle teaching. How did be found working work his way into this? Because the principles are the principles are the principles. Be found working. I'm trying to feel like, God, you about to break me out this cycle, and he is. Say, we on the verge. But we got to work first. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Because when I step in a promise, I can't step into promise with pride. I can't step into promise incompetent. I can't step into promise independently. And that's what he's been trying to work in us this whole time, that we've been trying to realize what he said to us. He says, I need to work that mess out of you so that when you get to the place that I've designed for you, that you can give me the glory that I deserved in the wilderness, the glory that I deserved in bondage. You don't think you got to up your glory game? Watch this. What if you took this one this way? To whom much is given, much is required. He gave you promise. You don't think he wants something? Reciprocity sounds good until you have to actually do it. Until you're on the working end of it. Right? It's not about earning. I want to be clear before I close. It's not about earning. It's about obedience. Because obedience is our optimal operation. But that's why he gives us instruction. And watch this. He gives us instruction, and his instructions are infallible. But we don't always do his instructions initially. Right? And so that's when he decides to intervene by his inclination, because he doesn't have to. Right? And then that's when we come to realize that intrinsically, he's intentional. Because watch this. God is a God that'll work out purpose while he's punishing you. Tell me they're not in a penalty. Tell me that they're not in a penalty. Tell me they're not. I just want the whole church to tell me they're not in a penalty. God will work out purpose even through penalty. Why have I been going through? Some of us are missing a purpose. I'm trying to work humility. I'm trying to work competency. I'm trying to work dependency. I'm blessing the work of your hands. I know you might feel like you're in delay. Maybe you are. What are you doing while you're delayed? Because the plane's outside. The pilot's on board. The flight attendants are already ready with your snacks and everything. Little manna here, little quail there. It's already ready. Y'all see that? Give God praise right there.